I'd like to thank you for your leadership in convening this debate, now for the second time in a row. And I also wish to thank everyone for attending this virtual press takeout on the Security Council open debate that finished some minutes ago. As I said, the annual report of the Secretary General before us today paints a harrowing picture of sexual violence used as a tactic of war, torture, and terror, and a tool of political repression. What we see from this report again and again is that conflict-related sexual violence remains chronically underreported, and this is fueled by patterns of entrenched gender inequality, fear, stigma, or unavailability of services, which all become obstacles impeding survivors to report or seek assistance. The 2019 report recorded 2,838 cases, to be precise, in 19 countries. Data obtained through United Nations verified information. And of course, while this information does not reflect the scale and prevalence of these crimes, it serves to illustrate the severity of this crime. Just to give you some highlights, women and girls account for more than 2,500 of the reported cases. And in 814 cases, the victims were children, and girls account for 803. So 95% of the cases. What comes out very clearly from the report as well is that comprehensive services for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence remain chronically underfunded, leaving many unable to simply meet their basic needs in the aftermath of these atrocities. And these including on sexual and reproductive health care, impede the coverage and reach of life-saving and potentially life-changing interventions. The report also brings out very clearly that despite some emblematic prosecutions and convictions in 2019, notably in the DRC, impunity remains the rule and justice and accountability the rare exception. The report also demonstrates how violence does not stop with the official ceasefire or the signing of the peace agreement, as can be seen in South Sudan, Central African Republic, or Colombia. On a more positive note, I must say that my mandate has accomplished many important milestones during the last decade, and I want to make specific reference to women protection advisors that are now deployed in 7 peace operations and special political missions. They have considerably enhanced data collection and analysis on conflict-related sexual violence. And just to give you an indication, more than 2,400 cases, 86% of the total number of cases, were reported in the countries where women protection advisors are deployed. And all these peace operations weave protection of civilian mandates, and 2 special political missions, Iraq and Somalia, have established the monitoring, analysis, and reporting arrangements on conflict-related sexual violence to guide the prevention and response strategies to conflict-related sexual violence. The team of experts on the rule of law and sexual violence in conflict continue to carry out targeted and specialized support to national rule of law institutions. And in 2019, the team of experts was deployed in Central African Republic, Côte d'Ivoire, DRC, Guinea, South Sudan, among other countries, to technically and financially back nationally led strategies aimed at tackling impunity for sexual violence. And their technical support has resulted in the prosecution and conviction of a number of emblematic cases, such as in the DRC. And I also must add that in 2019, the United Nations Action Against Sexual Violence in Conflict, known as the UN Action Network, which comprises of now 15 UN entities on the prevention and response to conflict-related sexual violence, has funded no less than 9 projects to address conflict-related sexual violence. To date, my office has signed 10 joint communiques or frameworks of cooperation with states to address sexual violence in conflict. And in 2019 alone, I signed joint communique with the governments of Mali, Central African Republic, and the DRC. And also 7 state actors have assumed formal commitments to address CRSV. I would like to conclude by reiterating the importance of the focus of today's open debate, that this year marks the dawn of a new decade of action for sexual violence in conflict mandate. And in this new decade of action, the aim is really to move from commitments to compliance and from resolutions to solutions and results. And for this, we need to build from the achievements of the past and focus our efforts in critical areas, with an emphasis on empowering survivors, holding perpetrators accountable, and ensuring compliance of parties to the conflict with international obligations. Well, with this, I'd like to thank you again, and I'll be very happy to respond to any of your questions.
Thank you. Lenka, you have a question? Anybody else?
Okay, I will be happy to ask. I was wondering, thank you for the briefing. I was wondering, do you think that the Security Council should do more in the future regarding this topic? Of course, we had an open debate today, which is a great thing, but should there be more active in the future? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this question. And in fact, in my briefing before the Security Council, I highlighted that for the first time, the report actually contains a gap assessment, which really throws a lot of light on the whole issue around compliance of states parties. Of parties listed in the annex to the SG's report. I drew the attention of the Council on the importance of fostering compliance by parties to the conflict to international norms, which is critical to sustainably address these horrid practices in conflict zones. And I encouraged the Security Council to monitor and ensure compliance, including through greater coherence and alignment between the list of credibly suspected perpetrators in the annex to the report and the actions taken by the Sanctions Committee. The gap assessment section in the report, which actually is mandated by the Security Council in its operative paragraph 5 of Resolution 2467, which was adopted last year in April. This section underscores the prevailing lack of compliance by parties to conflict with international obligations and the absence of commitments by persistent perpetrators to prevent the violations for which they are cited in the annex to the report.
Okay, thank you. Only to say that from German perspective, as long as we are in the Security Council, we'll continue to have this item on the agenda, and when we have country situations, we'll this issue. So thank you all very much, and have a good afternoon. And again, Pramila, thank you so much for your engagement, and again for the cooperation also between our teams. So all the best to you.